So let's look at this. In my notes, I say, in the Habakkuk passage, James D.G. Dunn, a popular Christian Bible translator, commentator, who's since gone on to be with the Lord just recently, within the last 5 or so years, he has this to say about the Habakkuk passage. He says, the usual understanding of Habakkuk 2:4 out of the Masoretic text, which is the Hebrew, is, quote, will live by his faithfulness. Notice that's the normal rendering to understand what the prophet is actually trying to convey. It is not necessary, Dunn says, to the discussion here in Galatians to resolve the question of whether Paul intended the ekpistios, the by faith, to go with hodikaios, the righteous, or zesatai, will live. So there's a big discussion in theological circles that I'm not going to get into right now. When Paul says the righteous shall live by faith, is he talking about, is it the righteous by faith will live? Or is it the righteous will live by faith? Which side do we put that clause on? And does it matter? And I can tell you there's been a lot of theological ink spilled over which side we should place the by faith on. Is it on one side of the righteous, or is it on the other side of will live? I'm not going to get into that tonight. What I do want to talk about is just this particular aspect. I might finish this up tonight. Let me see how far I need to go. I think I can finish this. I only have 2 paragraphs to go. So just bear with me. Let me read this for you. This is from my Galatians commentary, which is available on my website at tatesaytorah.com. So we're going to discuss faith and faithfulness a bit more closely, I say in my commentary, when we examine the second clause of Galatians 3:12 below. But for now, in this section, I want you to notice how Paul sets at odds what the influencers were taking for granted, right? Remember, the influencers are what Christians call the Judaizers, but you guys know by now I avoid using that word Judaizer because as a Jew, I find it rather insulting. It's rather pejorative to insult someone by calling them a Judaizer, as if to live like a Jew is a bad thing. Because that's what the word Judaizer means, to live like a Jew. Judaizo in the Greek. Judaizo, to live like a Jew, it shouldn't be a bad thing, especially if you are a Jew. I mean, hello? Okay, so these are the influencers, the detractors in Paul's piece, the opponents of Paul's gospel message. So what were they taking for granted? Namely, righteousness is grounded in ethnicity and Torah maintenance, which is what we call works of the law. That was their program. They believed that Gentiles needed to convert to become Jewish in order to be counted as righteous. So from their skewed understanding of God's righteousness, the influencers were putting the cart before the horse. They were putting their Jewish identity, which led to Torah observance. That whole package is called the works of the law, that what we might call a rite of passage. That program, that skewed version of covenantal nomism, was their whole perspective of resulting in righteousness or genuine covenant membership. But Paul was on a mission to reverse that errant theology. Righteousness is not grounded in ethnicity and Torah maintenance. Instead, Paul is going to go on record as teaching that righteousness is grounded in Messiah and what he has done for us on the cross as we place our faith in him. And once his Spirit takes up residency within you, you are righteous and you will be subsequently empowered to walk into the Torah. That's the genuine gospel message that Paul's going to teach. So, Paul does this by reminding his readers, right, in Galatians, of what the book of Habakkuk teaches on how the genuinely righteous will live. How will the genuinely righteous person conduct his life? What is his life supposed to look like? Let's continue reading. Let me scroll up a little bit there. We continue. Paul uses the scriptures to counter these influencers, to counter their limited nationalistic line of reasoning. This tells us that the works of the law that he's fighting against is not abiding by all things written in the book of the law to do them, right? Galatians 3:10. Because works of the law was subtracting the one chief ingredient of the law, which was genuine faith in God, which is genuine faith in Messiah. And if you lack genuine faith in Messiah, if you bypass that with your man-made conversion policy and your man-made works-based religion known as proselyte conversion, nationalism, all of that, if you're bypassing genuine faith in Messiah, then you're not doing all that that is written in the book of the law. You're forgetting the chief commandment of the law, genuine faith in God. That's why I say in my commentary that works of the law attracts the curse of the law in Galatians 3:10, right? And the works of the law do not count as true faith, Galatians 3:12. But instead, I say, actually count as self-effort, read Galatians 3:3. So it is legalism, it's self-effort, it's merit theology. It's a unique twist on it because the Jews in the first century didn't think they had to do something to be counted as covenant members. They thought they were brought into the covenant at birth because they were born Jewish and born into Israel. And they thought all that was left of them was to maintain my place in the covenant by keeping God's commandments. But again, Paul's going to come along and tell you, no, you guys aren't quite getting it.